Good morning, everybody. It's lovely to see you, and welcome to our Bible talk for today. Well, behind me today, just for a change, it's not one of those Zoom things you make yourself look like on a desert island or something. I thought just for a change, I'd talk to you from the amazing church of St Edmunds in Tamworth, where I'm based for a lot of my time at the moment. It is, they're lovely people, but I have to say, it's also one of the most amazing church buildings I've ever seen. So look up, you can see the window behind. Look at the roof. I love this roof. Can you see the golden bits there? And those golden, I don't know if you call them bosses, whatever you call them over there. Apparently, so the story goes, that there was a local butcher that used to worship here, and he didn't like looking up into black all the time, so we had it all painted gold. Anyway, it's a lovely place. It's, I think, one of the most beautiful churches I've ever seen, and I'm helping them out here for a few months, and it's great to be here. They're making me really welcome, and all is good all around. But you've not come here this morning for architecture. You've come here this morning to hear our journey through the letter to the Hebrews. And today we're in chapter 7. So without further ado, I'm going to read you Hebrews chapter 7. I'm going to read you just verses 1 to 10. This Melchizedek was king of Salem and priest of God Most High. He met Abraham returning from the defeat of the kings and blessed him. And Abraham gave him a tenth of everything. First, his name means King of Righteousness. Then also, King of Salem means King of Peace. Without father or mother, without genealogy, without beginning of days or end of life, like the Son of God, he remains a priest forever. Just think how great he was. Even the patriarch Abraham gave him a tenth of the plunder. Now the law requires the descendants of Levi to become priests, to collect a tenth from the people, that is, their brothers, even though their brothers are descended from Abraham. This man, however, did not trace his descent from Levi, yet he collected a tenth from Abraham and blessed him who had the promises. And without doubt, the lesser person is blessed by the greater. In the one case, the tenth is collected by a man who died, but in the other case, by him who is declared to be living. One might say that Levi, who collects the tenth, paid the tenth through Abraham, because when Melchizedek met Abraham, Levi was still in the body of his ancestor. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Right. I've been telling you for days. It's about time we looked at who Melchizedek was, and the answer is today. Well, Melchizedek, Melchizedek, king of Salem, he's called. Melchizedek means righteousness, and Salem means peace, where Jerusalem means Jerusalem, city of peace. So Melchizedek means righteousness. He's king of righteousness, and is also king of peace. That's what his name means, king of righteousness, king of peace. And to understand what it's all about, there are two parts of the Old Testament where Melchizedek appears. Genesis chapter 14 and Psalm 110. I'm going to try and explain to you what this is all about. Let me put my Bible down there. In Genesis chapter 14, you've got four kings actually, who go around invading. And when Abraham finds that his nephew Lot has been taken away, Abraham gets together, I think it's 280 troops, and they form a rearguard action, and they basically kick these raiders out and rescue the nephew Lot, okay? So he gets this small army together and he rescues Lot. And when he's on his way home, he bumps into Melchizedek, priest and king of Salem, okay? So he's come back from this great victory, and he meets Melchizedek there. And what becomes clear is this: Abraham gives a tenth of everything he has, and he gives it to Melchizedek, almost like an offering of thanks to God. And in return, Melchizedek blesses Abraham, and also gives him bread and wine in return. So, what does this say? Firstly, it tells you that because Abraham gave the money to Melchizedek, and Melchizedek blessed Abraham, it simply means that Abraham's great, but Melchizedek is greater. All right? So Abraham is great patriarch of the faith and so on. But what it's saying is Melchizedek is greater. Now, that's where Psalm 110 comes in, because it says, you are my son, this day I've begotten you, and that the Lord has made an oath he will not retract. You are a king forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. In other words, the Son of God is going to be like Melchizedek in that respect. So, you've got, I'm trying to get to the point. Abraham is great, okay, but Melchizedek is greater. And because the Son of God is like Melchizedek, then the Son of God is greater than Abraham. That's the first thing to say. So Abraham may have been great, but Melchizedek is greater than Abraham, and because Melchizedek is greater than Abraham, as Psalm 110 says, the Son of God is, therefore Jesus is greater than Abraham. What it's saying is, Abraham was great, but Jesus was greater. I'm sure you won't have any problem or issue with that. That's the first thing it's saying. Is I think that's kind of the first thing. The second thing is, Melchizedek gave Abraham bread and wine and blessed him. Okay. Now, I don't know, but I'm sure I'm not the only person that's recognized that bread and wine has a certain secondary meaning to most of us. That most weeks we gather together in churches like this one, like Penn and so on, and we meet together and we enjoy bread and wine. And in doing so, we remember what Jesus did. He gave bread and he gave wine to his disciples to remember him. And actually, like Melchizedek blessed Abraham by giving and gave him bread and wine, likewise today we are blessed by God, and we have bread and wine together in the house of God, and we are blessed by God like that. So in the same way that Melchizedek blessed Abraham, and Jesus is like Melchizedek, Jesus blesses us today, and we do so in remembering with bread and wine, like they did then, they did in Jesus' time, and we do now. The third thing which is important to say is that Abraham rescued Lot. Abraham had a great victory. Okay, his nephew had been taken away, and these marauders were kicked out, and Abraham wanted to say thank you, and he thanked God by giving him a tithe. In other words, he gave in response to God's goodness. And I think this tells us something to us today about what we need to do with our lives, that God is good to us, but we need to give to God in return. Not to try and wheedle favor from God, but God's given us so much, and in response we need to give in return. And like Abraham gave a tithe to Melchizedek as a thank offering to God for God rescuing him, so similarly today we need to give in response to God too. At our church at Penn, we give away 10% of everything that we have. We believe God has been good to us, and because God's been good to us, we're a blessed church. We give away 10% of everything we have, not because we need to, but because we want to, in response to God's goodness. And actually, likewise, in our lives, we need to give away. We need to give too. And yes, it's important. It's actually, financial giving is a really important part, actually, of Christian life and Christian discipleship. And we should give in response to what God has done for us. I'm not saying how much, but we should give properly according to what God's given to us. But not just our money. We need to give our time. We need to give our talents. We need to give our thoughts and our priorities. And like Abraham gave in response to God rescuing him from those marauding kings in the Jordan Valley all those years ago. So likewise, God has blessed us with so much. And it's important that we say thank you. And we can thank God with our wallet. We can thank God with our time. We can thank God with our priorities, our thoughts, our hopes, our ambitions, our talents. So I would encourage us today, think what God has done for you. Think of all that God has done for us and give in accordance with that. So, this interesting character of Melchizedek means king of peace and king of righteousness. Okay, that's what it means. That's what his name means. It tells you that Abraham was great. And because Melchizedek is greater even than Abraham, and Jesus is like Melchizedek, Jesus is greater than Abraham. It tells us that 3,000 years ago, Melchizedek met Abraham and blessed him with bread and wine. Jesus did something similar the night before he died. The church started doing it then, and we still do it today. We are still blessed today, and we are blessed by God, and we do it through bread and wine. And thirdly, also, in the same way that Abraham gave to God as a thank offering for what God had done for him, so we should today too. God bless you. Have a lovely day. Enjoy the rest of your day. And from St. Edith's in Tamworth, have a lovely day. God bless.